A very good morning, children. I hope that you all are fine at your home. Children, in today's English class, we are going to start with the fifth poem from your first flight book. As you know that we have already completed 4 poems from the same book, the first flight book. So today we are going to start with the fifth one, poem number 5, the Ball poem, which is written by John Berryman. John Berryman, he was an American poet and scholar. He is best known for the Dream Songs written in 1969, which was a sequence of 385 poems. He won the prize for the Dream Songs. He also won National Book Award. So basically, he was an excellent poet. Now here is the short description of the poem. In this poem, the poet John Berryman, through his poem, the Ball poem, described the reality of life, which everyone has to face one day. He has touched the topic of how to stand up against the miseries and sorrows of life. So now, children, we will head towards the reading of the poem with its explanation. Poetry 5, the Ball poem, and the first stanza is here. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? I saw it go merrily bouncing down the street and then merrily over. There it is in the water. So there are two difficult words in this stanza. The first one is merrily, which means cheerful. The second is bouncing, which means jumping up and down. In this stanza, the poet is talking about a boy who has lost his ball. He wants to know about him and his reaction because he has lost his ball. Further, he asks to himself that what this boy will do after losing his ball. The poet has seen the ball going away from the boy. He says that the ball was cheerfully jumping up and down in the street. This means that when the ball skipped from boy's hand, it went into the street and later on it fell into the nearby river. Now let us see the literary devices used in this stanza. The first one is assonance. The repeated use of vowel O. You can see in this stanza, that is boy, now, who, lost. So here you can see the repeated use of vowel O. The second is imagery. Here the poet has created the imagery scene when poet says merrily bouncing down the street. So an imagery scene is created for the reader here. The third is repetition. In this stanza, the word what is repeated. So this is repetition. Now let's move towards the second stanza. No use to say, oh, there are other balls. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy as he stands rigid, trembling, staring down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went. I would not intrude on him. A dime another ball is worthless. Now he senses first responsibility. So in this stanza, there are many hard words. The first one is grief, that means sorrow. The second is rigid, which means fixed. Third is trembling, which means shaking. The fourth one is harbor, which means the dockyard, or you can say the port. The sixth one is intrude, that means invader. The next is dime, which means 10 cents in US. The last one is worthless, which means valueless or useless. So in this stanza, the poet says that there is no benefits of consoling the boy by saying that he will get another ball because he has another balls too. He says so because the boy is feeling very sad. He is completely surrounded by sorrow. He is sad because all the memories of the childhood days went down the harbor with the ball. Here the poet says that the boy is very sad as the ball, which has now gone into the water, reminds him to those sweet memories of the times when he owned it. This loss is unbearable for him and he is grief stricken. The poet says that he can't even tell the boy to take some money from him in order to buy another ball. He says so because the new ball will not bring the sense of belonging to the boy. Further, the poet says that the time has come for the boy to learn the responsibility of taking care of his things. So the literary devices that is used in this stanza is repetition. The word ball is repeated in this stanza. So here the literary device is only repetition. Coming to the third stanza, in a world of possessions, people will take balls. Balls will be lost always, little boy. And no one buys a ball back. Money is external. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes the epistemology of loss, how to stand up, knowing what every man must one day know, and most know many days how to stand up. In this stanza, there are 4 difficult words. The first one is possession, that means ownership. The second one is external, which means things with which feelings are not attached. Here it means the things with which feelings are not attached. The third is desperate, which means hopeless. The fourth one is epistemology, which means this word is taken from the Greek word episteme, which means knowledge. In this stanza, the poet says that the boy has to learn that in this materialistic world, many of his belongings will be lost. He personifies the ball as his belongings, be it the worldly thing or the relationships he is in possession of. So he says that he has to learn to live without them no matter what. He says no one can buy back such things for him. The poet said so because, according to him, money can't buy you everything. If it does buy you some materialistic thing, still it will not be able to buy the sense of belongingness. He says that the boy is learning how to stand up against the sense of lost things. This means that the boy is trying to learn the real truth of life, which states that you have to accept the miseries of life and stand up again. This is the truth which everyone has to learn in his or her life. The harsh truth of standing up against the odd miseries of life that everyone has to bear. In this stanza, the literary devices that are used are the first one, assonance, the use of vowel sound E. As you can see in the poem, in this stanza, he is learning well behind his desperate eyes. So, the use of the vowel sound E you can see in this line. The second one is repetition. The word ball is repeated, so that is repetition. The third one is rhyme scheme. There is no rhyme scheme followed in the poem. So this was the poem and its explanation. Now let's move towards the summary of this poem. The poet is talking about a little boy who has lost his ball. He was playing with his ball. The ball skipped from his hand and went into the nearby water body. The poet says that this sight of the boy losing his favorite ball made him think about the boy and his reaction to this situation. He further says that the boy was helplessly looking into the water where his ball had gone. He was sad and was trembling with fear. He got so immersed in his sorrow that he kept standing near the harbor for a very long time and kept on looking for his ball. The poet says that he could console him that he may get new balls, or he could also give him some money to buy another ball, but he stops himself from doing so because he thinks that the money may bring a new ball but will not bring the memories and feelings attached to the lost ball. He further says that the time has come for the boy to learn his responsibilities. Here, the poet wants to say that now the boy will learn the toughest lesson of life, the lesson of accepting the harsh realities of life, that one day we will lose our loved ones and our loved things, which is the truth. Now, the central idea of the poem is, in this poem, the poet John Berryman describes the grief of a boy over the loss of his ball. With that loss, he senses his first responsibility in a materialistic world, where those whom you love and your worldly possessions will not be with you forever. The poem shows how all through your life you will be forced to do things that you don't want to do, and you will lose or have to give up the things that you love. But despite this, you have to learn to stand up, to be strong and get on with your life, no matter how much it hurts inside, because that is the only way you will survive. It does teaches us to learn to accept and let go, and not cling on to something that you can never have. though it is very difficult, students, but still you should accept and let go the things or the situation. This is what the poet wants to teach us through his poem. Hope, children, that you have understood the poem. Thank you and have a nice day.